Welcome to this shortwave radio channel, and I would like to really stress out that it's important when you listen to shortwave to have a minimum of knowledge of two very specific things when you're listening to shortwave. Unfortunately, I see a lot of people posting reception of stations, and the information they have is not right or outdated or incorrect. And, it is a complex thing. There's a lot of stuff out there, and, trying to make out what you're listening to is not necessarily the easiest task all the time. But once again, there are a few things you need to know. Make sure, first of all, that you know your UTC time. That is so important because UTC is how schedules on shortwave work. For a lot of people, I've noticed quite a few comments of, well, I don't understand this nonsense of why we don't use local time. Actually, local time is useless for international broadcasts because your local time, my local time are different, and that means I never know what local time it is for you. There needs to be something that is common to everybody, and universal time is that common thing. It's kind of world time, if you want. It's the same time for everybody. Right now, as I'm doing this video, it's 17 hours and 53 UTC. As I'm doing this video, if you're in Europe, it's 17 hours and 53 UTC. And if you're in Asia, it's 17 hours and 53 UTC. It's world time. That's why they use UTC, because this is the common ground where we always know what time it is. The only thing you need to know is how to convert that UTC time to your local time. That's why I always say, set a clock to UTC in your home. The clock on your radio, your shortwave radio, I personally think that clock should always be on UTC time because you're listening to shortwave. That's the logical thing to do. Make sure your schedules are up to date. I've noticed a few people, including someone that sent me an email and said, well, I never get the correct information about what station, and he actually linked to a website that's obsolete. And I showed him, I said, look, that schedule is from 2019. It's 2 years old. The schedules are no good anymore. You need to be up to date. I'll share here 3 websites you can go to that usually are quite up to date. My favorite, which is always up to date, is EIBI Space. It's a list, so you have BCB20, which is by time, so the UTC time on the left, the station you're listening to, the language, from what target area, and then the frequencies that they are using. Or you also have it by frequency if you're searching for something. You can use the search functionality and see what's on a specific frequency. So, for example, I'm hearing WRMI in 15770 right now. If I search through my browser and type 15770, well, at 17 hours UTC, so here it says 14 to 20, says Radio WRMI, Radio Miami International. So this is a way to search and know what you're listening to. And that's why your UTC time is very important. But you can use other websites. Like, for example, here, this is short-wave.info. If you want to use a website that you can search easily, this one is one of them. You can say, hey, I want to hear what's on 15770. What is that right now? Click the Now button, and it will actually give you that information. So it shows you here on the map that it's broadcast from Florida, WRMI. It's actually telling you that it's Supreme Master TV right now from 14 to 20 UTC via Okeechobee. So it's an easier way to get that info. But be careful because the schedules here are not always as accurate as EIBI Space sometimes. And finally, of course, you can search for that on another website called shortwaveschedules.com. Here you can click and show a frequency. It's going to give you the information also. Here you go, WRMI and so on. So, 3 websites I'm going to share with you guys. Simply go to whatever is your favorite. Short-wave.info is nice because it has a map with all the transmissions and target areas, and kind of has a visual aspect to it that's kind of cool. But whatever you choose, make sure that you know your UTC time, and make sure that you check correctly what UTC time, what station it is. For the rest, of course, there's a complex thing of knowing what you hear and is it possible. Remember, lower frequencies don't travel across daytime. So if you're hearing something on 6 megahertz and the station's path of frequency is throughout daytime, it's not that station. 6 megahertz will propagate more in the nighttime. But these are getting a little more complex, of course, and that's where you're getting in a more complex way of trying to understand what you're getting at. But just make sure that you have the correct time, correct frequency, and a knowledge of, not necessarily an understanding, and that's very important to know. You don't have to know Japanese to know that it's Japanese. You don't have to know Spanish to know that it's Spanish. The sounding of the language, when you get used to it, you kind of are able to make it out. It's easy to make out Portuguese rather than Spanish, for example, or Japanese rather than Mandarin Chinese. There are some subtle differences in the language, the spoken language, that even if you don't understand the language, you can actually make out what language it is over time. That's, of course, with experience. But slowly sort that out and make sure that you check carefully what you are at. And one of the things that I would like to ask people that are on the Facebook group do that. Some do that a lot. It's like, hey, I'm listening to that frequency at this time. What is it? Well, rather than actually asking everybody what it is, take the time to search by yourself. It's very important because asking for whatever you're listening to others is not the best and most, people will answer back, but the finding it yourself is much better because you'll get also the knowledge of how it all works rather than always being helped out with everything. So hope that these 3 websites that are in the description below the video will help you out. If you enjoy my videos, please subscribe, give us thumbs up. Thank you for watching.